It is just a huge, huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Jason Büyüközer. And I called Jason and asked him to come on the show because something's happened very recently with, of all things, amalgam separating regulation. Jason has been the technical specialist at M.A.R.S Biomed for the past 5 years. He has dedicated his career to becoming a North American expert on amalgam separators. Jason, along with the M.A.R.S Biomed, have been all over North America training water treatment plant inspectors, service companies, governments, militaries, and dental practices on amalgam separator maintenance, use of evacuation line cleaner, and the safe handling and disposal of mercury waste. And before we start talking, the reason I got you on the show is because I saw something, I forgot where I saw you posted, I don't know, it was Facebook or Twitter or something. Anyway, I talked to my my two dentist buddies up the street. And we were having a beer, and I said, what do you use? None of us. That was done when we built our office, 30 years ago, and none of us have a clue of what we even have. So you got to go slow with my homies here, because I don't think there's very many dentists who have thought a lot about this. So thanks for coming on the show. What did my homies need to know about amalgam separating regulation? What's changed?
Well, basically, it's required nationally now across the United States, which is a great thing. It's already been proven by countless studies and by water treatment plants. They already know that dentists are one of the highest polluters of mercury. The reason is other industries have already been regulated, but the problem with dentists is you guys aren't just polluting amalgam or mercury. You're polluting amalgam, which amalgam has mercury, silver, among other things, but tin. And tin has the ionic charge. When submerged underwater, will actually release mercury into a soluble form, which water treatment plants don't have the technology to remove. Back in 2014, the EPA told water treatment plants, you can no longer buy water to dilute to meet your standard. So dilution is no longer the solution to pollution. So now water treatment plants have to figure out a new way to meet their mercury discharge limits. And like I said, the biggest concern for them is soluble mercury. So when the EPA passed the regulation, in the regulation you'll see that water treatment plants have been given the responsibility to regulate and come up with their own standards for dental offices. So whatever the EPA regulation has said, it could be superseded by your local water treatment plant if they find your discharge limits too high. This will be very common along the Great Lakes, as many of the states and the water treatment plants along the Great Lakes signed the, Great Lakes Initiative, where they're trying to minimize the amount of discharge of mercury into the Great Lakes. So depending on where you are and what, how big your city is and what the expectations of your water treatment plant are, everyone's regulations are going to be completely different.
Yeah, and they haven't even started the concern. You know what the largest source of mercury, atmospheric mercury, is 50% comes from coal, but 6% comes from fillings. You know how it comes out?
How's that?
When they're cremating the bodies.
Oh, jeez.
They're cremating. I don't know how many people are. How many people die each year in the United States? Do a Google search. How many cremate? So they haven't even done word one of sending in someone with a pair of pliers to pull out these teeth. And think of the poor guy that's baking this human. I mean, when you open up a cremator, I mean, it's just ashes. So that guy who was ever doing it, I mean, that's hot, highly charged metal. You know what I mean?
Well, and while a big, and now people don't know this, but that inline trap attached to your pump, if you don't have an amalgam separator, every time you change that inline trap next to your wet vacuum system, you're exposing yourself to methyl mercury, because you have elemental mercury mixing with biological waste, and you should really be wearing a respirator, because when that mercury sits in that water, that whole water becomes saturated with soluble mercury and eventually just goes into vapor. And that soluble mercury will eventually turn into vaporous mercury.
Well, that's why I have my dental assistant change it. Which doesn't make sense, because Jan and I have both been there 30 years, and we're the same age, and she looks 10 years younger than me, so maybe that's her secret.
That's it. It's the serum of life.
Maybe we found the fountain of youth, and it's in the mercury trap. Okay. So what's changed? How does a dentist listening to you on the way to work, when they get to work, how can they be educated enough to figure out what they if they're compliant?
It's simple enough. If they don't already have an amalgam separator, which majority of dentists in the United States do not, do your homework. Go online, type in amalgam separators. Keep in mind, not every service company sells every amalgam separator. There's about 9 major ones in the market, and it's just just impossible for any service company, even the large ones, to sell more than one and two. It just doesn't make any sense. So do your homework. Don't just ask your one service company. Ask multiple different service companies on what systems they sell. Um, in all honesty, some service companies would sell you amalgam separator that will further their bottom line versus help you more, um, which has happened in Canada, actually. There's a company who refused to sell our system because, simply put, their technicians make a commission on parts. Filters are parts. Ours will save doctors too much money, is what they told us, essentially. But what you need to consider is, if you're looking at an amalgam separator and you don't have one currently, make sure the manufacturer offers a written guarantee of compliance. That's the safest way of protecting yourself. So no matter what system you get, make sure the manufacturer says, no matter your local regulations, we'll make you sure you're compliant. And that's what M.A.R.S does. We offer a written guarantee. We're confident in our product, mostly because there's been an independent study on our system showing that we are the best available technology. And we've already been told by multiple water treatment plants that they will recommend our system because they've seen the differences of our system versus other systems and the function of how it captures total mercury, which is solid mercury and soluble mercury. But the best way to protect yourself, if you're buying a new system, make sure you have a guarantee. Because if you're going to spend the money on a system, it better damn have a warranty. A $25 toaster has a warranty or a guarantee. Your $1,000 amalgam separator should.
You guys started in 2005, and do you only do dental?
That's it. We only sell amalgam separators and evacuation line cleaners that will make our systems work better.
So do you
We're
have
getting into
an
air
instructional?
disinfectants.
Do you have an instructional video of this? I mean, I watched your YouTube video where you're talking about it, but do you have like a video that shows it or explains it?
I do, yes. If you go to our YouTube channel, we have multiple videos spanning from the preventative maintenance of different amalgam separators. We talk about the EPA regulation. Every week we release 2 blogs, either written or a video blog.
Did you
On
post them on Dental Town's blog?
No, I haven't. I
My
didn't want
gosh,
to be.
there's a 250,000 dentists on Dental Town, and 50,000 have downloaded the app to their smartphone. You should put those on the blogs. Then what's also really neat to you guys listening is we just added this new feature where if you read a blog and you like it, we have your social media share, so you can share it to your Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest and all that stuff. But like I say, I wanted to get you on the show because everybody listening wants to talk about fillings and crowns. You know, they're chefs. They want to learn a new recipe, but this is something that you got to pay attention to. And I believe it's the dental office's responsibility because I believe that user tax are the best. I mean, if you're the one discharging the mercury, you should be the one paying to clean it up. Same thing with like when you visit Yellowstone Park. I mean, that shouldn't be paid out of general taxpayer dollars. The people going there should pay for it. I mean, the little old lady working at the Waffle House shouldn't have to subsidize your family vacation to Yellowstone. I like user fees, user taxes. So the dentist, and they are behind the curve because we have an Intel plant up the street, and I have a lot of patients that work at Intel, and they make a lot of crazy solutions in there, making those fab chips, right? And
Mhm.
they purify, they clean all their water up. They don't just
Let
dump it
anything
in the
be.
toilet and let Phoenix fix it. I mean, they clean up their own waste.
And that's the way it should be. And uh, in all honesty, it's if you're amalgam separator is probably the easiest route. There's other options where you can capture your entire discharge and send it off for recycling. It's a process. It's possible. But in all honesty, if you have an amalgam separator that's able to capture total mercury, like the M.A.R.S unit, we're different than any other system in the sense that we have a two-stage filtration system. One is a settling side, like every other ISO amalgam separator. It's settling base. And then the other side is a filtration side where we have a media that captures soluble mercury. Actually, the U.S. military asked to purchase the media from us because it's so good. And so, but if you have a system like the M.A.R.S in your office, you're going up and beyond what the EPA regulation is requiring, and even exceeding your local water treatment plants and making sure that you are completely environmental because you have the best available technology. In fact, anybody who has our amalgam separator, if you go to marsbiomed.com, go to our Find a Dentist page. That's an app that we have. Everybody with a M.A.R.S Liberty Boss gets free advertising as an environmentally friendly dental practice. Just type in your zip code, and within X amount of kilometers, so let's say I'm a patient looking for an environmentally friendly doctor.
Did you say kilometer? Did you say kilometer?
Miles. I meant miles. I did say
My
zip code instead of
gosh.
postal code, though.
My gosh, my homies don't know what a kilometer is. They're thinking, did you mean to say Klondike bar? And hey, back to that
Hey,
cremation.
your military guys, military buddies might know. They know clicks.
Well, you know what's really sad is I went to ASU, Arizona State University, and they did half the work on one of those M.A.R.S launching one of those robots that went to Mars,
Yeah.
and I think Jet Propulsion did the other half. And one group used miles and one used kilometers, and they found out that's why that thing crashed, because the computers froze. Because can you believe that? I mean, it's
Couldn't
just
convert from metric to imperial and back.
I mean, it's just crazy. I don't think America will ever switch to the obvious. And just think how much time it would save teachers teaching young kids math if they weren't on imperial math. But back to the cremations. That'll be your next effort because I've watched your YouTube videos. By the way, I think that do you think you should email me the links to email to Ryan what links to those videos, and we'll just put them on the podcast?
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. Well, he sent you one, or did he send you a couple? Is that one you sent? Is that the best way my homies could?
It's a 10 or 11-minute video, I believe, and it just kind of outlines the EPA regulation and what's happening, the release, what's expected.
Yeah.
I believe that's the one.
That was all audio, though.
It's video. It's
No, I mean video, but it's not like showing the device and how it works and clean it.
Oh, our system. I have another one that does. It's there's some graphics that explain how our system works and why it works.
Well, whatever you want to say. If that one you sent is good enough, we'll add that on to the end of the show. But back to cremations. I mean, check this out. The United States has about 2.5 million people die in the United States each year. Last year was 2,626,000. 51% get cremated. So the United States cremates 1,339,473 people a year. How many of those people have amalgams in their teeth?
Well, if they're in the older generations, that's probably a lot.
Yeah, those are probably. I mean, the median average age of death is, I think, 74 for a man, 79 for a woman. All those people have amalgams.
My mom told me when she was my age or even younger in her teens, even a small little cavity, doctor would fill it with amalgam right away. That was the solution.
Yeah.
She had countless of amalgams in her mouth. She's
Yeah.
slowly removing them as they break and replacing them with composites now. But the reason that my president of the company, of M.A.R.S, Mr. Darcy, started M.A.R.S is because he got mercury poisoning from his fillings. He had a significant amount and then had it all removed and put composites in. But that's what got him into amalgam separators, got him into amalgam, and became one of the leading experts in mercury in North America.
I got to tell you the creepiest mercury amalgam story ever. So my buddy buys a dental office in South Phoenix, and he works there for a couple of years. But this old office, I mean, the guy had carpet in all the operatories, carpet. And so after a couple of years, the office was built up. They had cash flow, and they're going to remodel it, and he was going to pull that up and put down linoleum. And so I went over there. He wanted some help pulling the carpet. So I went over there, and we pulled up the carpet. There was balls of mercury underneath the carpet, and my boys were kicking the ball, and they'd like hit the wall and bust into two and come back. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, that old man had practiced in there 40 years, And I don't know how old the carpet was, but it looked like it was at least 20 years old. And I mean, it was just crazy,
Oh yeah, that
crazy.
well, there'd be a lot of dust in there too, right? Because when they're drilling away and removing the mercury, it's kicking out into the office as well, and that probably settled in the carpet as well.
So, how much does this unit cost? This is Dentistry Uncensored. Get nitty gritty.
Okay. Well, normally when I do these kind of talks, I'm doing it with like the dental or the American Dental Assistants Association or water treatment plants. So I can't get personal. I can't be unbiased. So now I can be biased. The Liberty Boss is 1,174. That includes the recycling of the system. It can last up to 3 years in an office. 1 to 3 chairs is 3 years. 4 to 9 chairs is 2 years. 10 to 15 chairs is a year. There's no filters. There's no maintenance. If you buy an amalgam separator that has any maintenance, for example, one of the most common ones, the Sometics HG5, if you look at page 4 of their manual, require weekly inspections on their upper chamber and their filter for clogging and filling. I can even send you the link on their YouTube page where they have a video describing the maintenance where they tell you to wear gloves.
No. Post it in the blog. I'll read it on the blog on Dental Town.
I will. And it's our system's literally no maintenance, no exposure. A month before the Liberty Boss is due, we call you, or your service company, whoever installed it for you, calls you, reminds you the system's due. They pull out the whole amalgam separator, put the whole one in, a new one in, and you're good for another 3 years. 1, 2, 3 years, depending on the size of your practice. But it's set and forget. There's a guarantee of compliance that comes with the system. We guarantee our product for the service life. So if you pay $11.74 for 3 years, and God forbid there's a manufacturer defect, we will replace the system for free. We guarantee our system for 3 years. In 12 years of business, we've only had one failure.
It's only $1,174.
That's it for 3 years.
1,000, and then in 3 years, is it another $1,174?
And that includes the shipping and the recycling of the system. That's it.
And what do you do with the old one?
We send it off to a recycling center with a very reputable recycling center, Veolia. They recycle the entire unit, and that ends up going to Austria, where they do the refinery of removing all the precious metals.
Huh, interesting. I would have just thrown it in my assistant's trunk. You know, when she was really busy, I just would have got the keys
As
out
an
of her
April Fool's
purse.
trip, right?
And that's right. That's where I throw away all the sharps containers.
If you've ever smelt what's in an amalgam separator, it's god awful. When I first started this business, the president of my company says, if you ever want to lose weight, and just picture your favorite food as amalgam waste, that sludge that's in an amalgam separator. Because you got blood, you got biofilm, you got prophy paste. It's just one of the most grotesque things. And he says the way he got off chocolate was picturing that amalgam waste as chocolate, and he never touched chocolate again.
Yeah. Amalgam's just dead. I mean, but we're going to be drilling it out for 100 years. I mean,
you stop right now, you've got at least 50 years before every single amalgam's out of everyone's mouth. If you stop putting them in right now.
Yeah, or it'd be a century, actually.
It would exactly. It would be a very, very long time.
Yeah. And what's tough is they can't really go to tooth-colored fillings in the poor countries because they don't have the you need rubber dams, you need suction, you need high-speed suction, and they're sitting there doing dentistry. When you're doing dentistry, there's 2 million dentists, and the only 500,000 of them live in countries that look like Canada and the United States, and 1,500,000 of them are in poor countries. And they just and when they try to do those composites, I stand there and watch. I mean, the whole thing's contaminated. It's not dry. I mean, I even saw in one office where almost 3 times while the dentist was putting in the filling, the patient sat up and took a sip of water and spit into a pickle barrel or a little 5-gallon plastic deal. And I was like, oh my God. He'd etched it, then she rinsed and spit, and he put on the adhesive, then she rinsed. So you could have put amalgam in there, and it just, and it just would have corroded a really nice seal, and it would have worked for 30, 40 years. But they're putting in these composites under extremely less than ideal conditions, and so it's a tough deal. But I think
it'll get there eventually when the technology reaches their countries and it becomes more accessible.
Yeah,
sure, I'd imagine, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. The whole world's catching up fast. I think this is going to be our greatest century. I mean, in 1880, 80% of the world could not read or write, And now 80% of the world, someone in their hut has a smartphone and can get on Wikipedia and read 55 million pages of information. I mean, tell me that's not going to make this our greatest century ever when we go from a country on Earth where 80% are illiterate to now 80% are going to have a smartphone reading Wikipedia. I mean, that's just crazy.
Oh, it's going to move quick too. I mean,
yeah.
Everything's leaping in bounds now.
So how do if someone wants to talk to you or call you, who do they? What's your contact information?
Well, you can email me at consults, CONSULTS, at marsbiomed.com. If you have an amalgam separator currently, or you're looking and you want to send me a picture of your mechanical room, tell me how many chairs you have, how many doctors, more importantly, how many hygienists, because hygienists are what fills amalgam separators more than anything. What fills amalgam separators oh, let me get back to that in a second, but you send me that information and I'll send you a consult. You tell me what systems you're looking at, and I'll email you back with a price comparison with the system you're looking at versus a M.A.R.S. I do it all the time for Patterson Dental in Canada. They're one of my biggest distributors in Canada. And as for amalgam separators, how they work is every amalgam separator is a refined solids collector. They're made to capture anything that's heavier than water. So what actually ends up filling amalgam separators more than anything is prophy paste. So I get doctors who don't feel like their system should be changed, or wondering why their filter-based system is changed more often, because they don't do amalgams, or they don't place amalgams, they don't take them out. They do maybe one a year, they say, and they have to understand it's the prophy paste from your hygienists. That's why when I'm offering a consult or a price comparison for a dental office, one of my first questions is, how many hygienists do you have?
So why do the hygienists create more?
Well, like I said, an amalgam separator is a refined solids collector. That means anything that's heavier than water, it's going to capture. So prophy paste is heavy. Prophy paste will just settle in an amalgam separator. So every ISO amalgam separator, ISO 11143-2008 amalgam separator, is a refined solids collector. There's an inlet where all the sludge, the water, everything enters from the day into the system, settles into a filter, a settling tank. In our case, the settling side of our leg. Once it has time to settle, the heavy stuff settles to the bottom. The water somehow rises above that and escapes, depending on what system you have. Ours goes over our first leg from our settling side into our media side, and then the water is filtrated, so you remove the soluble mercury. That is not ISO required. All that ISO requires is the settling. So you get a bucket from Home Depot, you can get the same thing. You pay the $10,000 or $20,000 it is to get your ISO testing, and you can make an amalgam separator out of a Home Depot bucket and get the same thing as almost every other amalgam separator.
So on the app, on the Dentaltown app, there's a little search bar there where you can search a key term, and I want everybody to use it at least once because it cost me $50,000 from Google. And whenever you want to update it to the newest deal, you got to buy a whole new box. But anyway, I just typed in amalgam separators, and there's just endless threads talking about this. Could you go in there and answer a lot of these questions?
Oh yes, for sure. Once we're done this interview, we can figure out. Show me how to do it, and I'll.
Well, you do, yeah. Just on the search bar, just type in amalgam separator, and there's just threads galore. People asking questions about about all these things. But that'd be really cool if you would go in there and answer those.
I will.
And it's good marketing too, because in your signature box, I mean, you can't say in your thread, you can't answer a question. Well, if you want to do it right, just buy mine. Here's the deal. But in your signature, you gotta be sharing content answers. But in your signature, you can put your name, your logo, your email, your contact, all this stuff like that, and you can say in your signature box, if you want to consult, email me consults@marsbiomed.com, and I think that'd be the best marketing you could do.
I will definitely do that. I enjoy answering questions about amalgam separators, and I have no problem being unbiased. As I said, I train water treatment plants all over North America, and when I'm doing so, I have to be completely unbiased. In fact, some cities actually make me sign a lobbyist contract saying I can't lobby my own product because I have an invested interest. All I can simply put, I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but the Liberty Boss, if I just state fact, it sells itself. It makes sense. Why wouldn't you want an amalgam separator that can last 3 years with no filter, no maintenance? There's no hidden cost. It's $11.74. Let's say a filter-based amalgam separator gives you a free system, because most of these filter-based systems run on the Gillette principle. I'll give you a free handle if you buy my blade. So I'll give you a free amalgam separator, doctor. Just buy my filters. And you know what? And according to their maintenance schedule, it's once a year or when it's full, whichever comes first. For a 3-chair practice, 1 doctor, 2 hygiene, you're looking at a $350 filter every 6 months. Now you're spending $700 a year, 21 over 3 years, and that's $11.74 for the Liberty Boss. Nearly half the price. It's the Liberty Boss. And that's just cost of filters. You're not including the transportation or installation fees. So I mean, any doctor, our best customers at M.A.R.S are the doctors who do their homework. If you do anybody who takes just 30 minutes to do your research, I won't have to sell you on the product. You'll sell yourself.
And that's why I do these podcasts, because they're multitasking, they're driving to work, and I hope every day they get to work and they just learn one more thing, because the problem with dentists is they just have so many hats to wear. I mean, they got to learn root canals, fillings, crowns, braces, bleaching, bonding, veneers, and then HR and accounting and marketing and SEO. I mean, amalgam separator is just one more damn thing that they didn't teach you in dental school, that, there's just so many hats to wear.
There's so many, and it's unfortunate. Actually, I always say that one of the most successful dental offices I've ever seen are dentists who hire a manager, pays them well, lets them do that job, so then you can focus on what's important, which is the patient. And those are the ones I always see that are successful, because the doctor, I mean, they could do it. Of course they can do it, but when you have, like you said, too many hats, you're everywhere. You're pulled everywhere. Your time is limited. And I enjoy this way we're talking right now, honesty and open, and it hits a large audience, for the reason that marketing is probably the worst enemy for dentists, because a product could be okay, but have great marketing, and it sounds awesome. You spend all this money, and it ends up being one of the worst pieces of crap you buy. Or a company could have the best product, but don't have the same marketing budget as these large companies, and you missed out because you fell into that marketing trap. With something as honest and open as this.
I notice about 3 business strategies in dentistry around the world. The Americans, they'll just market. They're the best in marketing. You go into a lot of these mid-range companies that like do $100 million a year in dentistry, and you'll go in there and they'll have a call center with like 50 people dialing for dollars all day long, with thermostats and goals and some leader pumping them up. And then you go over, and there won't be any PhDs, or no one has a degree in engineering. Nobody has a PhD. Then you go over to Germany and Switzerland, and nobody has a call center, but they might have 5, 10, 20, 50 PhDs. So the Americans just going to market and advertise the crap out of it. The Europeans believe that they'll build it so damn good that you'll figure it out and come buy their product. And then you go to China, and they just are convinced that if you're the lowest cost, they'll just squeeze a penny out of any dime they find. And so the Asians just want to go the lowest cost. The Europeans want to just make it the best with no advertising, and the Americans are just make the most money because they just know how to sell.
And there's different rules in marketing in the U.S. versus other countries as well. There's less regulations on what you can say and do in marketing, I found. For example, there's a chair company that I came across, and they were selling in Japan, and they're saying the best chair in Japan. The Japanese government told them, you can't do that. Unless you can show me fact that you're the best chair, you can't say that. In the U.S., you can say it. I mean, how many best copies in the world is in New York?
Yeah, and the most saddest thing I think I ever did in the business is I came out with the 30-day dental MBA. And it was on, back in the day, it was on VCR, and sold a bunch of these things all around the world. And a bunch of dentists got all excited and started doing some of this advertising and marketing and stuff like that, not knowing that it was illegal. And I couldn't believe how many dentists got in trouble in other countries because what was just standard operating practice in the United States was extremely illegal in Hong Kong and Romania and, all these different countries where some people got into some big trouble. But yeah, so It is a big tent out there. So again, I just want to hold your feet to the fire. She's driving to work right now.
Okay.
How does she know when she gets to work if her amalgam separator is compliant? I mean, what is she supposed to do?
So if you have an amalgam separator right now, as long as you're maintaining it properly, according to manufacturer specifications. So, I mean, whatever your manufacturer is, type into Google your unit's make and model, user manual. Read the user manual. If it's one of the most common systems, the Sumitex HG5, they require weekly inspections because the inlet of their filter is 3/4 inches. You put a piece of biofilm on top, the filter looks empty, but your upper chamber starts to build. It's really, there's a lot to it. It's simple, but it's not. The easiest answer is go to marsbiomed.com, go to our blog section, and go to preventative maintenance. We've got preventative maintenance of the 6 top separators sold in North America. And you can just watch those videos, make sure, figure out which one's your model, and look at it. How an amalgam separator is maintained really depends on the size of your practice. Some amalgam separators are very specific in their service schedules and their usage, like M.A.R.S. 1 to 3 chairs is 3 years, 4 to 9 chairs is 2 years, 10 to 15 chairs is a year. Or it's not specific, like a filter-based system, which is every 12 months or when it's full, whichever comes first. So it's hard to keep track of when your system's due if you're not familiar with the required maintenance of the system. Every amalgam separator that's ISO 11143-2008 tested is compliant in the EPA regulation. It may not be compliant with your local water treatment plant. So if you already have an amalgam separator, you could be grandfathered in as saying that your system is compliant until your local regulation says otherwise. So if your water treatment plant, for example, in Ohio, there was a doctor who had, it was a small town, there's like 2 doctors in this town, and one doctor doesn't place amalgam, and then one places a lot of amalgam. So he needed an amalgam separator according to the water treatment plant, and he put in a Sometics. This doctor was changing a filter. I think it was a 2 or 3 chair practice. He was changing his filter every month, when even he only had to really replace it every 6 months on his size practice, and he still couldn't meet the city standards. So the city said, "Listen, either you change your amalgam separator to something else that will work, or you shut down." So he put a M.A.R.S in. Now he met the standards. So even though you have an amalgam separator, until your city says otherwise, you're compliant. Just make sure you maintain the system properly. You've asked them, it's what they need to know. That the most simple way of making sure you're compliant is get a written guarantee from the manufacturer before you buy. If you have one, make sure it's maintained properly to manufacturer specifications, and also call your local water treatment plants. Call whomever will be regulating you and ask them what they're looking for. In all honesty, you don't have to have an amalgam separator until July 2020 is the cutoff date. It's the maximum cutoff date. Unless you're a new practice, then you have 6 months or something like that. But if your water treatment plant states, okay, you need an amalgam separator now, unless otherwise mentioned, you have till 2020. So don't go out and buy an amalgam separator unless it comes with a guarantee, or you heard from your local regulator what they're expecting. And that's probably the simplest answer for your members, is just make sure what you're getting and spending your money on is right for your practice and right for what your local regulators are looking for.
And one of the things you keep saying is something people don't think about. What is the initial cost of something versus like the total cost of something? Like most of these airline companies, the reason they buy brand new Boeing jets is they could run the other ones for 30 years, but the increased efficiency, fuel savings is why they're doing it. So you can buy something cheap, but if your maintenance cost is expensive over the life of the deal, you can end up paying twice as much for something. And in fact, that's one of the only reasons I'm thinking I might get rid of my car. My car's 2004. The gas mileage of the new cars is twice of what it was in 2004. From 2004 to 2017, Lexus basically doubled their miles per gallon. So I have to look at my fuel cost, but so total cost. And by the way, I wonder if the EPA even thinks about cremating. I know I'm fixated on the cremation deal, but I think that's I think that's as as big of an issue as what you're talking about. You're talking about one source of it. You're talking about
They might
mercury
have.
going into water, and this company of yours was started because the guy had mercury toxicity, and just think of all those people cremating 1,339,000, and then they say it's responsible for 6% of the atmospheric mercury is from cremating humans with amalgams.
Wow.
That's just crazy. I mean, and that's something that could be stopped tomorrow.
Easily. Yeah, just start pulling out the teeth.
I mean, it would take a law written on the size of a Post-it note that says somebody trained in dentistry, whether it be a dentist, a hygienist, somebody. I mean, basically, someone needs to go in there with a pair of pliers, and you just can't do this.
Yeah.
And if that's responsible for 6% of the atmospheric mercury, what do you think the working conditions are for the cremator?
Right there in that facility. Oh, I can imagine.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. But yeah, so let's. I think we covered this. This is a single subject deal. Unless there's anything else you want to say.
Well, as you were saying, the maintenance cost versus the initial cost is something you asked about. As I mentioned, filter-based amalgam separators. It's kind of funny you brought up that car analogy. It's the one the president of my company uses. Filter-based amalgam separators are based on 1990s technology. Our system is based on 2005 technology. Would you still be driving a 1990 car, or would you be driving something in this millennia? And that's the analogy we like to use. We're new technology that is seen as the best available technology in the industry. Simply put, you have a M.A.R.S in your office, you're guaranteed compliance. We give it in writing. And that's probably the easiest answer. That's unbiased, or very biased. I mean, we can state it behind fact. I can give you independent studies that back what I say, because at M.A.R.S, being a Canadian company, in our advertising, we cannot say something that we can't back by third-party information. So that's just how our marketing works. Is we have an independent study done by a gentleman in Ohio, and it showed that we are the best available technology. Water treatment plants recognize that, and that's why we offered it in writing. If you forget about the costs of anything, even though we're probably about half the cost of any system, we are the most efficient and the best available technology. Simply put, buy a M.A.R.S, you'll never have to worry about your amalgam separator again.
Well, good. And I want to also state that this was not a commercial. You did not contact me. I contacted you. No
Yes.
money traded hands. But if I do go to Toronto, you will buy me a beer.
I'll buy you a pitcher.
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing.
We'll go to Amsterdam. We'll go to some of those breweries, those microbreweries, and I'm telling you, you're gonna love it.
Oh yeah, I love those microbreweries. Way too much. Yeah. So why don't you send over what videos you want them to see? If you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see the videos on YouTube. We also obviously put them on Dental Town, Hygiene Town, Ortho Town. Thanks for informing us. And just like I say, it's just that one more thing where a dentist has to wear so many hats. But the reason I contact you is because this new EPA regulation, I saw that coming down. That's when I did my homework and called you and had you come on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, and it's hopefully will help some of your members kind of cut through some of the information. I mean, the EPA regulation is 94 pages. You don't have time to read 94 pages.
Yeah,
so this hopefully will cut through all that need to read the 94-page regulation.
Yeah, and if you get on Dental Town and go in, do a search for amalgam separator and answer those questions, that'd be great. And whenever you do write a blog, if you've already got the content, might as well repost it on the Dental Town blog section. It's extremely popular.
I'll start posting. We've got, like I said, for the last 3 months, we've been releasing 2 a week. So I'll start repost them on your website.
Yeah, and for you homies listening, like I say, when we come out with a monthly magazine online, and a lot of these guys take several months to write these articles, and if you found, and no one's paid for it, it's all volunteer and sharing and from the heart. And if you like what somebody writes on that magazine, share it to your social media. I think that's the greatest compliment a patient give is a referral, a friend or loved one. And I think the greatest gift a dental content creator on Dental Town can do is share it. So if you post a blog, and if Jason Büyüközer posts a blog and you found it informative and answer your questions, then reach up and hit the share button to your other social media sites.
That'd be exciting.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I think you really, this is like Toys R Us. It's a category killer. I think you came on the show and you talked about this EPA Amalgam Separation Regulation from A to Z, and you crushed it. And congratulations on that. And my only mission to you, how old are you?
28.
28. So I'm 54. So you're young enough. I got a son your age. So you have to promise me by the time you're as old as me, there'll be EPA regulation to go extract those molars in cremated bodies. You got to take that. You got to take that mercury separation technology mission of yours a little further.
That sounds like a little fun to me. Well, we're actually getting it. Mars is getting into air disinfection right now, so that's our next step.
All right, buddy.
Now we know where to target.
Now Ryan's gonna go start his own company.
Wonderful.
Cremation molar extraction services. He'll just drive around in an Uber car all day long, pulling teeth out of crematories. All right, have a good day.
You too. Thank you. This video is about the one simple rule that will save you money when investing in an amalgam separator. The EPA regulation is on the mind of dentists in the United States. This will be the second blog released from M.A.R.S regarding the EPA regulation since the release July 14, 2017. In the last blog, What American Dentists Need to Know About the New EPA Regulation, explained why dental practices are being targeted by the EPA and PODWs, the issue with ISO 11143-2008 amalgam separators, and what is best for your practice. This blog is going to be very short and to the point, for the reason that is there's only one rule when choosing an amalgam separator for your dental practice. The one simple rule you have to remember is get a written guarantee of compliance from any amalgam separator manufacturer before purchasing their system. A manufacturer of a compliance product should be confident enough in their product to guarantee that all dental practices with their system will meet or exceed any current or future requirements. If the manufacturer cannot guarantee your compliance, why are you investing in their product? The logic behind the one simple rule: you could have the cheapest amalgam separator, you could have the most expensive amalgam separator, you could have the most common amalgam separator. If the manufacturer isn't protecting their customers by guaranteeing your compliance, how protected is your practice? Cut through all the marketing from all the manufacturers. Forget about their features, forget about the required maintenance, forget about their cost. If you cannot get the manufacturer to give you in writing, important, in writing, that your practice is protected from any current or future regulation, then why are you considering their system? If you cannot get the manufacturer to give you in writing that your practice is protected from any current or future regulation, then why are you considering their system? Your local regulators, most commonly the water treatment plants or POTWs, have the legal right to require you to purchase best available technology if your current system does not meet the requirements. This is regardless of when you install the system or how old it is. If your amalgam separator doesn't meet their standards, you will be required to reinvest in a new system. An excellent example of a guarantee of compliance is the one from M.A.R.S Biomed that comes with every Liberty Boss amalgam separator. The guarantee of compliance states, if the Liberty Boss technology should fail to meet or exceed the respective regulations due to M.A.R.S technology shortcomings, M.A.R.S Biomed will make the appropriate adjustments to the Liberty Boss as further described on the M.A.R.S website. If the Liberty Boss should fail due to a larger volume of amalgam waste produced or other distinctive features of the dental office, M.A.R.S will suggest additional M.A.R.S technology products to ensure compliance. When you are a part of the M.A.R.S family of environmentally friendly dental practices, we guarantee the protection of your dental practice, staff, and community. Remember, if you do not want to spend hours researching different amalgam separators of the market, simply ask one simple question of the manufacturer. Do you guarantee my compliance? If they can't offer you in writing that your practice is protected with their product, this will shorten the list of amalgam separators you could choose from. I hope you found this information helpful. If you would like to have more questions answered, please do not hesitate to call M.A.R.S Biomed at 1-866-594-3648 or visit our website for more information at marsbiomed.com. Have yourself a great day and thank you.
Dental offices will be required to use amalgam separators, which can capture the mercury that would otherwise enter public waterways, to meet the proposed dental amalgam reduction requirements at source. The dental profession is making a watershed moment, going beyond the ADA's 2007 recommendation to include amalgam separators as part of their best management practices, to embracing the debate shift from whether to end amalgam to how to end amalgam, and, more immediately, to when to buy one.
There's 54 tons of mercury that's dropped into the environment yearly by dental offices, which was very disturbing when I found out about it. So I just jumped on this right away. I wanted to do what was right. I drink the water like everybody else. You have a family, you want to do what's right.
So yeah, I've been concerned about the environment and wanted to do something extra to prevent mercury from going into the environment through my office.
Hello, I'm Jason Büyüközer, the Technical Specialist at M.A.R.S Biomed. I'm an expert on amalgam separators, and I'm here today to explain common misconceptions on how amalgam separators work and their purpose. As we all know, mercury amalgam has 50% mercury. We also know it contains tin, among other metals. What you might not know, tin has an ionic charge that releases mercury into its free state, which is a gas. When that mercury is placed in water, such as in an amalgam separator, that dissolves into a soluble form. This is a large concern for your local water treatment plant, as they lack the ability to remove soluble mercury. This study above is a time study in which 4 grams of amalgam is placed in 125 milliliters of pure water at a neutral pH and allowed to dissolve over a 30-day period in the same manner that it will dissolve in an amalgam separator. Regardless if the EPA regulation is released, dental practices will be regulated not by the EPA, but by your local water treatment plant. In 2014, the EPA told water treatment plants that dilution is no longer the solution to meet their mercury discharge standards. Now water treatment plants have the responsibility to either stop the source of the mercury pollution or pay hefty fines for going over their mercury discharge limits. As just mentioned, because mercury amalgam dissolves into a soluble form, it is well known by water treatment plants that dentists are the highest polluters of mercury waste.
We know that your chair side trap and your central solids collector capture the bulk of broken amalgam fillings. But that's not the issue for the EPA. Your high-speed drill, which carefully removes the last remnant of broken amalgam filling from the tooth, reduces the amalgam into a fine dust, which, when mixed with the water from your syringe and the patient's saliva, emulsifies it into a liquid waste stream that bypasses your physical collection traps, enters your vacuum piping system, and then drains into the public sewer system, arriving eventually at your city's publicly owned treatment works. It takes only a teaspoon of mercury to contaminate a 10-acre lake and impair fish consumption. The EPA has estimated that a typical dental office produces up to 3 pounds of mercury waste every year. Our amalgam separator captures over 99% of that mercury, which will keep you compliant.
All amalgam separators are a refined solids collector. They will capture anything that's heavier than water. What would fill an amalgam separator faster than anything is prophy paste from your hygienists. A common misconception we hear from dentists is, I don't place amalgams anymore. However, almost every day you restore broken amalgam fillings. It is estimated that almost 60 million amalgam restorations are placed every year in America. With a life expectancy of 10 to 15 years, you will be replacing broken amalgam fillings for the rest of your career. Once the microparticles of amalgam pass through your chairside traps into your suction line, an amalgam separator is needed to capture the mercury. the microparticles, biofilm, and prophy paste enter the Liberty Boss through its inlet. The lid of the Liberty Boss is an air-water separator, slowing everything down so all material heavier than water can settle in our settling leg. Up to this point, the Liberty Boss is functioning like most ISO 11143 amalgam separators. Once all heavy material settles, the water climbs over from the settling leg into our filtration leg. The M.A.R.S Liberty Boss is the only amalgam separator to have a media bag that captures soluble mercury, surpassing the ISO standard on amalgam separators. Only the Liberty Boss has been independently studied to capture and prevent solid and soluble mercury from flowing out of your wastewater into our environment. M.A.R.S Liberty Boss is the only amalgam separator to have been independently studied to have the ability to capture soluble mercury. This makes the Liberty Boss the best available technology and the most environmentally friendly amalgam separator.
Being a biological dentist, I have always been environmentally conscious about proper disposal of mercury fillings.
I think we're all together in this, and it's really easy to do. It's not a big deal, and it's something that you can control.
Unfortunately, not too many dentists are conscious about it, and of course, being involved in installing it, I think it's worth every penny.
If you're on the fence about different products, the M.A.R.S separator unit is an easy call.
The M.A.R.S amalgam separator is extremely easy to install, maintenance-free, very easy to operate, it's noiseless.
They give you a product for 3 years, it's maintenance-free. They take care of the change, they dispose of the waste correctly. Fantastic, you don't have to do anything.
The nicest thing about it is none of us get exposed to the amalgam waste and the biohazardous material.
The nicest thing about it was that I didn't have to tend to it at all, that the staff didn't have any maintenance, and I didn't even know it was in the office. The suction was good, nothing changed, except that I knew I was keeping mercury from the environment.
M.A.R.S offers a written guarantee of compliance with every Liberty Boss. If you have a Liberty Boss, M.A.R.S will make sure your practice will be compliant no matter what your local regulation is. You can run your dental practice knowing M.A.R.S is keeping you, your staff, and your community safe. Unlike other amalgam separators, the Liberty Boss is a true maintenance-free system. There isn't a need for weekly maintenance to check for clogging and filling, constant filter changes, or decanting. Just install the Liberty Boss and forget about it for up to 3 years. The M.A.R.S Liberty Boss is easy to install and can fit in any tight spaces. In your mechanical room, simply cut your main vacuum line coming from your chairs at one end, easily attach to the top of the separator, and at the other end, easily attach to the bottom of the separator before your solids collector and vacuum pump. Once the Liberty Boss is installed in front of your solids collector and pump, you will no longer be exposing yourself to methyl mercury every time you change your solids collector, which will not have to be changed as often anymore. As another added benefit, the Liberty Boss will protect your pump and help it last longer. With the Liberty Boss, there's 0% exposure to mercury because unlike other amalgam separators, the Liberty Boss is never opened in a dental practice, exposing you and your office to methyl mercury. At the end of your service life, you or your technician simply detaches the two hoses and the entire unit gets safely recycled.
Save yourself the headaches, save the environment, and, best of all, become compliant. The most cost-effective product on the market, and you don't have to worry about changing the filters or exposing your office staff to the waste. Saving up to 50% over our competition guaranteed. After the term of use, you simply disconnect the unit and send it in. We'll even pay for the shipping. No more replacing filters on contaminated units. Through this exclusive program, we'll replace the entire unit, letting you rest assured you're not exposed to years' worth of amalgam and bio-waste accumulation. It's the only true maintenance-free separator on the market. And getting in our program will save your practice a fortune year after year.
Thank you for listening to our introduction to amalgam separators and the EPA regulation. If you have any further questions about amalgam separators or the EPA regulation, do not hesitate to contact any of the M.A.R.S certified amalgam separator specialists from our distributor page, or call M.A.R.S directly at 1-866-594-3648. Thank you for your time, and we are looking forward to seeing you as a part of the M.A.R.S family. Hi, it's Jason from M.A.R.S Biomed. Today we're talking about some great news. The EPA regulation for amalgam separators is going to print June 14th, 2017. By the time this video is released, it's already been a few days. Which means, starting July 14th, 2017, dental practice in the United States will require to have an amalgam separator by July 14th, 2020, at the very latest. As the regulation has been passed and been sent to print, you will find that your local water treatment plants, or POTWs, or privately owned treatment works, will require dental offices to get an amalgam separator sooner than later. The reason is, water treatment plants have an issue of high mercury discharge and are aware that the highest polluters of mercury are coming from dental offices. So for those of you who already have an amalgam separator and think you're going to be compliant, please read this article or watch the rest of this video. Every ISO 11143-2008 amalgam separator will meet the EPA regulation, but it may not meet your water treatment plant's standards. As an independent study has shown, most amalgam separators create and release soluble mercury. A large concern for your local water treatment plant, as they don't have the technology to remove soluble mercury at the water treatment plant, so they gotta find it at source. Below, you'll see a link to an excerpt of the Purvis environmental study on this amalgam separators. When the EPA regulation is released, it cannot be enforced by the EPA. It is stated in the regulation that responsibility will be passed on to your local water treatment plants. In 2015, the EPA took away the POTW's ability to dilute water to meet the mercury discharge allowance. The EPA regulation requires a ISO 11143 amalgam separator, the use of a evacuation line cleaner that has a pH between 5 and 8.5, as well as the proper disposal of amalgam waste, chairside traps, the contact and non-contact amalgam, solids collectors if they're not located after your amalgam separator. The amalgam separator will need to be maintained to manufacturer specifications. So for example, if you have a filter-based amalgam separator, you're going to have to do a weekly maintenance on inspections for filling and clogging based on manufacturers' manuals on their systems. For detailed breakdown about the EPA regulation, there is another link below that states EPA regulation. You could also go to the M.A.R.S website for preventative maintenance. So if you have an amalgam separator already, M.A.R.S has done preventative maintenance on the top 6 separators sold in North America, and it will show you how to maintain it to manufacturer specifications. In the EPA regulation, if your POTW deems your mercury discharge too high, they have the right to supersede the EPA regulation and require stricter standards for your practice. Soluble mercury is creating a big issue for large treatment plants, as I mentioned, because they do not possess that technology to remove it. Should that POTW deem your practice to be discharging too high, your office will be forced to follow their best management practices. This means your water treatment plant will have to find the source of the pollution and resolve the issue. This could be done in multiple different ways. They could create fines, they could create new local standards and regulations, and they could sell you pollution permits, just to name a few options. In 2014, studies were released providing evidence that the highest source of soluble mercury pollution are from dental practices. As we all know, mercury amalgam contains tin. Tin has the ionic charge that releases mercury into its free state, which is a gas. What we may not know, when mercury is submerged underwater, it is released into a soluble mercury at a very high rate. And this is what's the major concern for water treatment plants. All amalgam separators
are required to be ISO 11143 certified, which only tests for solid mercury. Unfortunately, the technology and standards for ISO testing on amalgam separators have not been updated to meet the current requirements for water treatment plants who will be setting and verifying discharge limits. Generally, how an amalgam separator works is they're a refined solids collector. They'll capture anything that's heavier than water, and it's all settling based. The issue with this method, as mentioned above, when mercury amalgam is submerged in water, it releases into a soluble form. This means any of these settling based type amalgam separators will generate and release more soluble mercury than they capture, making it much harder for you to meet your local water treatment plant standards. The M.A.R.S Liberty Boss goes beyond the ISO testing. We have a two-stage filtration. We have a settling side like every other amalgam separator. Then we also have a filtration side, a media bed that actually captures soluble mercury. The Liberty Boss has been independently tested to be the only amalgam separator to capture soluble mercury. This is one of the ways that M.A.R.S Liberty Boss is different from any ISO amalgam separator. Our process makes the Liberty Boss not only the most environmentally friendly amalgam separator, but the best available technology in the industry. What is best for your practice? When you're deciding on an amalgam separator for your practice, M.A.R.S suggests a few standards that may help you make your decision a little easier. Number 1, does your amalgam separator manufacturer offer a written guarantee? M.A.R.S is so confident in our product that we offer a written guarantee with every Liberty Boss. Any practice with our system will meet or exceed local EPA or POTW regulations. If you don't, M.A.R.S will make sure you do. Why spend the money on an amalgam separator without any guarantee? 2, have you done your research? It's a good idea to call around to different manufacturers and get information about their systems that you're considering. Remember to ask them if they offer a written guarantee to comply with any current or future regulations, as your local water treatment plant may not have their best management practice written yet, so you don't know what is going to be expected. Also read the manual for the amalgam separator you are purchasing. Many filter-based amalgam separators require weekly inspections for filling and clogging. That's something you should be aware of, and all the maintenance required on your system. Ask your service company which systems they sell, and you will find that even the largest of service companies will only carry 2 or 3 different models. It would be a good idea to call different dental suppliers, because amalgam separator manufacturers may choose not to work with every service company, even the big ones. What maintenance is required and what the costs involved? We would suggest, no matter what system you're looking at, get a 2 or 3 year cost analysis, an estimate on the costs. And the cost to consider is not just the cost of purchasing the system. Is there filters? What's the cost of those? How often you have to change them? What's the maintenance required? What's the cost of recycling these systems? How often the system has to be maintained? Most amalgam separators that are filter-based, the average is every 6 months on an average 3-chair practice. So the cost of the filters could actually be 2 or 3 times more expensive than the system itself. You want to look above the marketing. Some of these systems will offer you a free amalgam separator. If you buy their pump, or if you are looking for amalgam separator, they'll just hand you a free system. But most of these filter-based amalgam separators run on the Gillette principle, which means I'll give you a free amalgam separator if you keep buying my filters, because that's where they make their money. During your search for the right product, if the amalgam separator you choose has any maintenance at all, you bought the wrong amalgam separator. A maintenance-based amalgam separator leaves chance for failure, which an amalgam separator maintained properly can protect your equipment. If you don't have a properly maintained amalgam separator, it's known to kill your suction, kill your pump, which means you lose business. Your office will have to be shut down until you can figure out how to get suction back. And it could also cause repercussions from your local regulation or local regulating bodies. If your water treatment plant sees that your amalgam separator is not being maintained to manufacturer specifications and you're polluting because of it, it's the doctor's legal responsibility to maintain these systems, regardless if you paid a technician to service the system or not. The Liberty Boss is the only one that requires no maintenance. All we ask is you use a daily neutral non-foaming evacuation line cleaner every day, which is a process you already do when maintaining your suction lines. And we also, the only other thing we ask is change your system based on the service schedule. So 1 to 3 chair practice lasts 3 years, 4 to 9 chair practice lasts 2 years, 10 to 16 chairs last 1 year. And we also have a reminder program set up. So as long as you fill out the warranty card and send it to us, we will remind you a month before your system is due. So you don't have to worry about it. Don't have to look at it for up to 3 years. The cost of the Liberty Boss includes a guaranteed compliance for up to 3 years, shipping, safe recycling and reminding of when your system is due, along with a receipt of recycling, a written warranty against any defects, free advertising as an environmentally friendly dental practice, and a guarantee of compliance. Please remember, do not make this decision lightly. The right amalgam separator could be a large asset for your practice. It will not only protect your equipment and make it last longer, but it can protect your community, for your patients and your family. Making the wrong choice in amalgam separator will not only cost your practice time and money, but it can also hurt your community. I hope this information has been helpful. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call M.A.R.S Biomed at 1-866-594-3648 or visit us on the web, marsbiomed.com. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you as part of the M.A.R.S family.